Have you ever seen someone lose their temper in public and regret it instantly? Tell me in the comments and let me know which city or country you were watching from. Aok stepped back, her patience thinning, her expression a mix of restraint and disbelief. Truth? She repeated. No, this is pride. The words hung heavy in the air. The pool lights shimmered blue and white across their faces. Vanessa smirked. Well, pride doesn't push people, anger does. The irony of that line wouldn't be realized until later. For now, the crowd's murmurs grew louder. The night that began as a glittering celebration of unity was unraveling one word, one glance, one breath at a time. And at that very edge of the pool, where power and ego collided under the glow of chandeliers, nobody could predict what was about to happen next. One step too close and 1 second too late would change everything. The air around the pool shimmered with nervous energy. Guests had stopped mingling. Servers pretended to adjust glasses just to stay close enough to watch. Everyone sensed it. Something was about to happen. Aok stood still, her heart pounding beneath her composed expression. Vanessa Brooks, dry smile intact, was standing only a few steps away, her reflection flickering on the rippling water. The tension between them felt electric. Do you know what your problem is? Vanessa said finally, her voice smooth but sharp enough to cut through the music. You pretend to fight for people, but deep down, you crave their approval just like everyone else. Aok's jaw tightened. She tried to walk away, but Vanessa's words chased her like sparks to gasoline. Don't turn your back on me now, Congresswoman, Vanessa added, her tone dripping with mock politeness. Or are you only brave on Twitter? A few guests snickered. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, is this really happening?" The moment was being filmed from at least 5 different angles. Aok turned back slowly, her eyes fierce but voice steady. This isn't bravery, Mrs. Brooks. It's self-respect. You should try it sometime. The crowd reacted, quiet gasps, murmurs, and stifled laughter. Vanessa's pride snapped. She stepped closer, heels clicking against the marble, water lapping inches behind her. Don't you dare lecture me about respect, Vanessa hissed. You walk into events like this pretending to be humble, but everyone can see through the act. You need people like us to stay relevant. Aok took 1 step forward, lowering her voice so only those nearest could hear. I don't need your approval. I need justice for people who'll never be invited to places like this. For a moment, they were inches apart. The flash of a camera reflected between them like lightning. Leonard Brooks moved quickly toward the scene, trying to intervene. Vanessa, but his wife ignored him, lifting her chin higher. Justice? She repeated with a bitter laugh. You call this justice? You're standing in designer shoes at $1 million gala, lecturing people about poverty. That last line struck like a match to dry grass. Aok inhaled sharply. She could feel the stares, the scrutiny, the judgment, the waiting. Every instinct told her to walk away, but pride whispered otherwise. She turned to leave, shaking her head. I don't have time for this. Vanessa stepped closer again, blocking her path, her voice raised. Of course you don't. Because deep down, you know I'm right. That was the moment, the 1 second when calm dissolved into chaos. Aok's arm moved, perhaps to brush Vanessa aside or reclaim her space. But Vanessa had stepped too close to the pool's edge. Her heel slipped. There was a brief, collective gasp and then, a splash so loud it silenced the night. Vanessa's scream cut through the music as she hit the water, her elegant gown ballooning around her like a sinking cloud of silver fabric. Phones shot up instantly. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted. She pushed her, while another yelled. No, she slipped. Leonard ran to the pool's edge. Vanessa, he cried, kneeling down as staff rushed forward. Aok froze, her eyes wide, her breath caught between shock and disbelief. For a few seconds, it was chaos. Some guests helped Vanessa out, dripping and furious, makeup smudged, jewelry glinting under the pool lights. Her expression said everything: rage, humiliation, disbelief. Aok took a hesitant step forward, her voice trembling. Mrs. Brooks, but Vanessa cut her off with a glare that could shatter glass. Don't say a word. Her tone was sharp enough to still the crowd. Leonard handed her a towel, his jaw clenched. He didn't speak to Aok, not yet, but the look in his eyes was clear, disappointment. Aok stood frozen, her heart racing, surrounded by hundreds of staring eyes and clicking cameras. The damage was done. Security escorted the Brookses away as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Did she really push her? It looked accidental. No, she totally snapped. Aok turned to her assistant, whispering, Did you see what happened? She slipped, right? Her assistant hesitated. I think so. But the video's people only caught the end, and that was the real problem. The internet didn't care about truth, it cared about clips, angles, and outrage. Within minutes, notifications began buzzing across the ballroom. Phones lit up. The clip, a 10-second video showing Aok standing near the pool just before the splash, was already on social media. No context, no audio, just the image of power, pride, and a fall. Aok looked out over the silent crowd. Dozens of guests avoided her eyes. A few reporters whispered excitedly into their phones. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself. It was an accident, but even she could feel it. The night had shifted. The air of glamour was gone, replaced by something colder, judgmental, final. As she quietly exited the terrace, flashes still followed her, capturing every uncertain step. Behind her, the sound of Vanessa coughing and crying echoed faintly, the sound of a reputation drowning in front of everyone. And in the crowd, Leonard Brooks said the words that would soon define the next chapter. This isn't over. What do you think really happened, accident or anger? Type accident if you think it was a misunderstanding, or angry if you think Aok lost control. By morning, the clip had gone viral, and one decision from the CEO would shock the entire world. By the time Aok's car door shut, her phone was already vibrating non-stop. Ping, ping, ping. Mentions, tags, notifications, a digital avalanche she didn't dare open. Inside the car, her aide, Sophia, whispered, "It's everywhere, ma'am. Twitter, TikTok, even Bloomberg's running it now." Aok's stomach tightened. How bad? Sophia handed her the phone. The screen was filled with headlines flashing in real time. Aok pushes Black CEO's wife into pool at Gala. #Gala agate power play or public meltdown. 10 seconds that could cost $1 billion. The video had already racked up over 12 million views. Slowed down versions, reaction edits, conspiracy threads, the internet was feeding on it like wildfire. The clip itself was vague, a tense moment, Aok stepping forward, Vanessa stumbling, a splash. No context, no dialogue, just that image Aok framed against the glittering pool, the billionaire's wife sinking into blue water. Every outlet had their angle. Some called it symbolic justice, others labeled it political violence. Meanwhile, the Brooks residence, midnight, Leonard Brooks stood in his study, watching the clip on repeat. The fireplace cast a flickering light across his face, half anger, half disbelief. Vanessa sat on the sofa in a robe, wrapped in a blanket, still fuming. "She humiliated me in front of everyone," Vanessa said, her voice cold. "She thinks because she's a politician, she can get away with it." Leonard rubbed his temples. "She's claiming you slipped," Vanessa snapped. "Do you believe that?" He didn't answer right away. He looked back at the screen, the 10-second loop playing again and again. "I don't know what to believe anymore," he finally said. "But I do know one thing, our deal with her initiative is off the table." Vanessa blinked. "You mean the Clean Equity Fund?" Leonard nodded. "It was a $1 billion partnership. But if I don't act now, our stock will drop by morning. Investors hate bad press." He turned to his assistant on the phone. "Draft the statement. Effective immediately. Brooks Holdings is terminating all collaboration with the Aok Economic Justice Program." Vanessa smiled slightly. "Good. Let her see what power really feels like." Back in DC, Aok sat on her apartment balcony, the city quiet except for sirens in the distance. She refused to look at her phone again. Every time she did, the world felt smaller. Her chief of staff called. "Alex, we need a statement before sunrise. They're calling it assault." The Brooks PR team just announced they're canceling the fund deal. Aok closed her eyes. "That deal was supposed to bring clean energy and jobs to low-income communities." "I know," he said quietly. "But right now, people care more about the clip than the cause." She stood and looked out at the city lights, the same city that had cheered her rise, now ready to watch her fall. "I won't apologize for something I didn't do," she said. "But I won't stay silent either." Morning, the media frenzy. By sunrise, the story had become a global phenomenon. News anchors debated it on live TV. Podcasts analyzed Aok's body language frame by frame. Even late-night shows were making jokes. On Times Square's digital billboards, from Congress to controversy, did Aok go too far? Inside a CNN studio, a host read Leonard Brooks's official statement. "We deeply value dignity and mutual respect. Following last night's unfortunate incident, Brooks Holdings is ending its partnership with the Aok Economic Justice Fund." It hit like a punch. AOC's office lines lit up with calls from donors, activists, and critics. Some rallied to her side. Others distanced themselves instantly. Hashtag AOC Gala trended at #1 worldwide. Her supporters tweeted hashtag she slipped. Her critics posted hashtag push for power. The nation was divided again. Afternoon crisis room. AOC stood before her team, eyelids heavy from no sleep. Screens on the wall showed polls, tweets, and clips. Sophia spoke first. "Ma'am, we can either deny it and risk being called dishonest, or own it as an accident and apologize for the optics." AOC paced slowly. "Optics. Everything's optics now." Her communications director added, "We could leak the full video. There's security footage from the hotel. Do it," AOC said firmly. "If it shows the truth, let them see it." Hours later, the unedited video surfaced online and the truth was finally clear. Vanessa had stepped too close, arguing aggressively. AOC had raised a hand, not to push, but to steady her. It was Vanessa's own heel that slipped, but the damage was already done. The first impression had cemented itself in millions of minds. Leonard's decision. That evening, Leonard held a press conference. Dozens of reporters gathered, mix ready, flashes popping. He stepped up to the podium, calm but stern. "I have reviewed the full video. It appears Mrs. Cortez did not intentionally push my wife." A murmur swept the room. "However," he continued, "our company has decided not to reinstate the deal. This incident has revealed deeper differences and values that cannot be reconciled." AOC watched the broadcast in silence. It wasn't anger she felt, it was disappointment. Not in him, but in how quickly truth could be drowned by narrative. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Sophia. "People are starting to see the full video. Public opinion's shifting." AOC looked up from the screen and smiled faintly. "Good. Let's turn this into something real. If they won't fund justice, we'll crowdfund it ourselves." Do you think Leonard was right to cancel the deal? Type yes if you support his decision, or no if you think he let pride win over progress. Just when the world thought the story was over, a new video surfaced, and this time, it wasn't AOC who looked guilty. It had been 48 hours since the gala and the internet still hadn't moved on. Clips, memes, reaction videos all feeding the storm. But in a quiet office on the 30th floor of the Waldorf Plaza, a young security technician named Eli Grant was about to change everything. Eli had been working the night of the gala. He remembered the chaos, the shouting, the flash of lights as Vanessa fell. But unlike the rest of the world, he had seen it from a different angle, through the hotel's internal CCTV feed. Now, as he replayed that footage frame by frame, his eyes widened. Vanessa wasn't pushed. She had stepped forward in anger, her heel catching the slick marble edge, and AOC's hand had actually reached to help her, not shove her. Eli hesitated. He knew what releasing this could mean. He'd seen the headlines, the outrage, the political frenzy, but he also knew what was right. He sent an anonymous message to an independent journalist. "You've all been watching the wrong clip. Check the security cam feed from the East Terrace. It tells a different story." The revelation. By the next morning, a new video surfaced on the Truth Wire, a small but credible investigative outlet. Then came the line that froze the internet. "If she hadn't tried to grab me, I wouldn't have fallen. But maybe this will remind her not everyone belongs at every table." The message ended with the soft click of disconnection. The fallout, the reaction was instantaneous and brutal. Every word of Vanessa's voice was dissected, replayed, and analyzed. News outlets confirmed its authenticity within hours. The audio had been verified by multiple forensic analysts. CNN ran the headline, "Vanessa Brooks leak reveals racial, class bias behind pool incident." MSNBC's morning show called it the final nail in the coffin of public sympathy. Even conservative outlets that had criticized AOC earlier now turned on Vanessa, calling her comments elitist and racially charged. The once beloved socialite had become the face of arrogance and prejudice. Inside the Brooks mansion, the sound of the voicemail played on every news channel. Leonard sat in his private study, staring blankly at the television as Vanessa paced in panic. "They twisted my words," she cried. "It wasn't like that." Leonard turned to her slowly, exhaustion written across his face. "Vanessa, it's your voice. Those were your words." She froze. "You're taking their side now?" He sighed. "I'm not taking sides. I'm facing facts. You said things I can't defend. You cost us credibility, trust, and the deal we built for years." Vanessa's anger shifted to desperation. "So what? You're going to let her win?" Leonard shook his head. "This isn't about winning anymore. It's about what's right." He stood up, took a deep breath, and said softly, "I think it's time we take a break from the public eye." Vanessa stared at him, disbelief turning into silence. At Ayok's office, Ayok sat in her conference room surrounded by staff. On the screen, the leaked voicemail was being played on repeat. Sophia looked furious. "This is unbelievable." She literally admitted it. The communications director added, "We could use this to completely destroy their reputation. Go public, push for accountability, maybe even sue for defamation." But Ayok stayed quiet, listening. Finally, she said, "No, I'm not interested in revenge." Her staff exchanged glances. She continued, "This isn't about one woman's bias. It's about what this moment represents, how fast society punishes before it listens. Let's not feed the same cycle." Sophia frowned. "But people want you to fight back." "I will," Ayok said, "but not by dragging someone down. I'll fight back by building something better, something no one can cancel with a headline." The interview. That evening, Ayok appeared on 60 Minutes for an exclusive interview, her first since the entire scandal began. The interviewer leaned in. "Congresswoman, you've been vindicated. Do you think Vanessa Brooks deserves forgiveness?" Ayok took a deep breath. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning for both of us. I can't control what others say, but I can control how I respond. And I choose to respond with grace." The interviewer nodded. "And the $1 billion deal that was canceled?" The interview. Ayok smiled faintly. "It's being replaced by thousands of small donations from people who actually believe in justice. That's worth more than any corporate partnership." Her tone was calm, but firm. It was the tone of someone who had turned humiliation into momentum. Leonard's redemption attempt. Days later, Leonard Brooks requested a private meeting. Ayok agreed reluctantly. They met in a quiet D.C. cafe away from cameras. Leonard looked older, his posture less polished, his tone more human. "Representative Cortez," he began, "I came to say I'm sorry. Not just for what happened, but for what I allowed to happen." Ayok studied him silently. "I believed a narrative because it was easier," he admitted. "And I made decisions based on fear of public perception, not truth. That's not leadership. That's cowardice." Ayok nodded slowly. "It takes humility to say that. I appreciate it." He took a deep breath. "If there's ever a chance to rebuild, even in a smaller way, I'd like to help fund the communities your initiative was meant for." Ayok smiled faintly. "Let's not rebuild the deal. Let's rebuild trust." They shook hands, not as adversaries, but as people who had both been burned and humbled by the same fire. "What would you have done if you were Ayok? Accepted Leonard's apology or walked away forever? Comment forgive if you'd move on, or refuse if you'd cut ties for good." As the dust settled and the world moved on, one final twist surfaced, revealing that the poolside scandal was never an accident, but a setup from the very beginning. Weeks passed. The headlines had calmed, and the world had moved on, or so it seemed. Ayok's reputation had not only recovered but grown stronger. Her grassroots fund, rebuilt through small donors, had already surpassed the original $1 billion goal. It was a symbol of justice powered by ordinary people who believed in fairness. But beneath the calm, a quiet investigation was unfolding. One of Leonard's internal PR contractors had come forward with a shocking confession. She handed over an encrypted email chain between Vanessa Brooks and a high-profile event consultant, the same firm that had managed the Gala's media setup. In the emails, Vanessa's message was chillingly direct. "If Ayok wants to play the hero, let's see how she handles a little public embarrassment. Make sure the cameras are rolling near the pool. I'll handle the rest." The plan had been simple: provoke Ayok during a heated conversation, ensure it was caught on film, and leak just enough to damage her credibility before the upcoming congressional vote. No one, not even Leonard, had known about it. The truth comes out. The investigative story broke on every major network. Leaked emails reveal Gala incident was a setup. Screens flash Vanessa's words across millions of devices. The same public that once cheered her elegance now saw her as the architect of manipulation. When reporters swarmed her estate, Vanessa refused to comment. Leonard, meanwhile, was seen leaving the mansion with a single suitcase and no security detail, a quiet sign that the marriage was over. He later released a short statement: "Integrity must always come before loyalty. I will cooperate fully with any investigation." Ayok's response when asked for comment: Ayok didn't gloat. She didn't hold a press conference or fire back at Vanessa. Instead, she posted a single message on X, formerly Twitter. "The truth always surfaces just like light in deep water. To everyone who stood for justice, thank you. That post was shared over 12 million times within 24 hours. For millions of viewers around the world, Ayok's story became more than politics. It became a lesson in patience, truth, and resilience. The gala returns a year later. The annual Unity Gala returned, this time under new leadership, with a stronger emphasis on diversity, transparency, and inclusion. As Ayok stepped onto the red carpet once again, cameras flashed. But the tone was different, not scandalous, but respectful. Leonard Brooks was also there, not as a sponsor, but as a quiet guest supporting a new scholarship program for underprivileged students. When the two crossed paths, there was no tension, only a quiet nod of mutual respect. Later that night, Ayok addressed the audience from the stage. "A year ago, I stood right here, accused and humiliated. But today, we're not talking about shame, we're talking about growth. Power doesn't come from money or titles. It comes from the courage to stay calm when the world misjudges you and the strength to keep moving when no one believes you." The crowd rose to their feet in applause. Even Leonard joined in, eyes lowered, clapping quietly. Final scene: as the gala lights dimmed and the cameras cut off, Ayok stood by the pool, the same spot where it had all begun. The water shimmered under soft golden light. Sophia approached her and said softly, "Full circle, huh?" Ayok smiled. "No, not full circle, just forward." She turned away, walking into the night, stronger, calmer, and untouchable. What did you learn from Ayok's story? Type "Truth wins" if you believe patience and integrity always prevail. Truth and integrity triumph over manipulation. Redemptive, empowering, and cinematic. Power is not about control, it's about character under pressure.